Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, it's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 118. And so for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. After that, we're going to hit the news from this past week. Then we're going to jump into our Week 8 power rankings and game picks. And last but not least, we'll close things off with question of the week. And so, James, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, man?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Going good, man. Going good. Friday night. I slept on the couch last night, and so I'm a little fatigued, but I feel the second wind coming. Uh, my little guy, he got scared watching the Goosebumps movie, and so he ended up taking my spot in the bed.
That's okay. I just didn't sleep last night because freaking my kids decided they don't want to sleep at night anymore.
It's the joys of being a parent, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, why don't we move it on over and let's do Name That Stadium. James, why don't you take it away, man?
Yeah, I will take it away. Uh, you started though. I have to. I forgot to look and I forgot where I was last week, so I need
Sure,
a second.
sure,
So
sure.
I
Yeah,
just
so
realized it as we started.
I got you. No, it's all good, man. So yeah, so Name That Stadium for anybody who's watching. We know if you're listening on a podcast, you kind of miss out on this part of the show, but that's okay. If you're watching, you can see James is out there traveling the country. Every week he's got a different stadium in his background. Usually during the regular season like this, he's picking the stadium for a team that has a home game this weekend. And we're just asking if you think you know where he's at, hit us up in our comments section. The first person to get it right will get a super, super special shout out in next week's show. And I'll even bookmark it so that you know you got your shout out and you can just jump right to it if you want to. And so, James, man, where were you at last week?
So I figured out why I didn't get any takers last week. I picked a home team, a home stadium. I looked at it and I was like, where the fuck is that? So I
So
had
you
to go
picked a
back
good
to the
one.
go back and had to go back and look at the pictures to figure out which stadium was. But I was at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara
Okay.
for the Kansas City San Francisco game. I really thought that game was going to be closer. I did not think that Kansas Kansas City was going to put that much of a beat down on
Yeah.
San Francisco. So, but I thought that was the best game of the week last week. So,
Yeah, I think the Chiefs' offensive line this year is what they were hoping it was going to be last year. After they brought in Tooney and they did whatever. It's like last year it didn't quite gel right away, and now it's like all of a
hmm
sudden this year that offensive line has just been like rock solid. And I mean, you
it
saw it with Bosa. They pretty much like took Bosa out of the game, and I mean it just opened up the offense. They were doing whatever the heck they wanted against like arguably the best defense in the league up to this point in the year.
yeah, and it's just like I mean, I put it on the Patrick Mahomes "fuck you, disrespect me, say Tyreek Hill made me. I'll show you motherfuckers" tour.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he was just definitely he's on fire, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Okay, well yeah, so that's our name that stadium action. James, how about we move it over and do our recap of the past week? That sound good, man?
sounds good. It's a
Well,
lot of shit happened, so
well here, let's kind of start it off the way we've been doing it this year, where we just kind of like reflect on the past week's games and talk about any kind of big surprises, and then we'll talk about some of the notable injuries. And then I know this past week we had some trades. We can kind of go from there. But looking back at this past week and the games that we had, um, like what kind of things stood out for you as being surprising this past week? I mean, the
um,
fucking, the New York teams keep fucking rolling.
the New York teams weren't as much of a surprise. They were playing. lower or teams that had worse records than them. Those weren't much of a surprise. I think probably the biggest surprise was Carolina, like going
Oh,
out and just
yeah,
beating
upsetting
the
Tampa
shit out of
Bay.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and nobody thought that could happen. Everyone wrote Carolina off, and you gotta give them mad respect for doing it. And I think if I remember correctly, like there's been a lot of chatter this week about what's his face, PJ Walker, and could PJ Walker be the future. But if you look at it in Carolina, take a look at the standings. If Carolina wins this week, they'll be tied for first place in the division.
Yeah, that's a messed up division this year.
Heck, if Carolina and New Orleans win this week, all four teams will have the exact same record in the division. And I mean, it's not writing home because
Yeah.
the leader in the division be 3-5, but I mean, geez, who thought that? I thought when I looked at it, I thought there'd be possibly two playoff teams from that division. And it looks like they're going to be lucky to get one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a really sloppy division right now, and I think a lot of people, myself included, keep looking at Tampa Bay thinking, hey, the defense is playing pretty good football for the most part. It's the offense that's not doing their part. And if they can come
Hmm.
around, which I think is in large part due to the offensive line being really weak, if they can shore that up a little bit, show some improvement, maybe Brady takes a step forward because he gets a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. Those receivers get more time to get open. The run game is a little more effective. It's like Tampa Bay, it still seems like on paper could be that team, but the offensive line has been their Achilles heel this year.
I put a lot of the issues on Brady. Like, I mean, he came into the season not prepared. He missed 11 days in training camp, 11 crucial days where possibly some of these throws there'd be more chemistry with like Evans, where yeah, they played together last year, but they're not gelling this year, and maybe those 11 days could have helped that, where he's not short arming Evans, or they know what each other expects in the route where Evans is going to go. You also look at he 2 weeks ago he skipped the Friday Saturday practices
Yep.
to go to Bob Kraft's wedding. It's like Brady is not focused at all this year, um, which I mean, it sucks. I actually, with the news, some of the news that came out today, I can understand why he hasn't been focused.
So
But
this is something I know I'm jumping around here going on a tangent, but we're talking the owner, Robert Kraft, is the guy that got married. The same guy that was involved in like what that Florida massage parlor
hmm
shady stuff a couple years back, talked about how
hmm
much he loved his deceased wife and could never love another woman. And, that's why he was doing these dirty things. That Robert Kraft, you're telling me he just got married. It's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, no, I don't know, dude. Hey, life is a weird kind of thing. And all I'm saying is, I felt like there was more going on back then that they should have done a little bit more investigating into that issue because it just seemed it's almost like you look at the Deshaun Watson thing and it's like where there's smoke, there's fire. I think some shit was going down back then that they got away with, kind of like it seems like today Watson may have gotten away with some shit too. And so I don't know, whatever. I'm on a rant. It is what it is. So James, some of the other surprises from this past week, man. I did not see the Bears beating the Patriots. Like I just wow. I mean, I'm starting to look at the Bears a little bit like the Cardinals, where they're very unpredictable, and it all
hmm
depends on what goes on with their quarterback. It's almost like Fields is a little bit like Kyler Murray, where if he's on, then they can do something. If he's not on, it doesn't even matter. But like even in that game against the Patriots, it was really more than him. Like the defense showed up. It's like like Chicago up until this past week had 2 wins, and I thought they were like clearly the worst team in football. And now I'm kind of like, okay, they
Mhm.
got 3 wins, and they're actually showing that they can do something here and there, which is a lot more than we can say for teams like the fucking Lions, who played great football for the first couple weeks but had nothing to show for it, and now they're falling flat. It's like they're on different trajectories now, if you know what I mean.
So I think the Bears. I was surprised on how bad they beat New England. But going into this game, they changed. You could tell watching the game if you watched the other Bears games, they changed their offense to fit Fields more. They
Mm-hmm.
had more design runs, and Getsy was calling Getsy. Yeah, I think it's Getsy, Getsy, whatever the offense were.
Yeah,
They were calling plays that fit Justin Fields' style. And when they do that, Justin Fields is good. When they don't do that, they get away from that and start not fitting his style and making him more of a drop back passer. He struggles with that.
yep,
So it's a lot like Deshaun Watson. If you put Deshaun Watson in the offense that the Bears was previously running with Fields, Deshaun Watson wouldn't necessarily excel in that because his style is completely different than he would be better than Fields, but he still wouldn't excel in that. Or Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson probably would be
yeah,
looked at similar to Fields right now if they didn't adapt that Baltimore hadn't adapted their offense to Lamar's
yeah,
style.
yeah. His skills, yeah, yeah. And I think it's a lot of quarterbacks we're seeing in the league. I mean, we talked about it with Russell Wilson. It's like you got to get him out of the pocket, man. Let him work his magic.
Hmm.
You force him to sit back there and do it, you're seeing the results. They're not pretty, but um, another one, James.
Oh,
I thought Seattle beating the Chargers. That was one where it's like, okay, I'm starting to accept that Seattle has a formula for success. And then I think I'm also starting to kind of give up on Los Angeles, where it's like, okay, maybe they're really just not going to be able to overcome these injuries. And so it's like, maybe, if I analyze it, it's not as much as a surprise. But like going into this past week, I was like still hanging on to those beliefs that, maybe Seattle's a little bit of a faker, and maybe the Chargers just need like another week to get healthy, and it's not playing out that way at all, man.
so so with Seattle and the Chargers, that wasn't as much of a surprise to me. The one thing with it that I found funny, and we'll get to it a little bit more when we get into the picks, but for going into that week when I ran my model in the game, I came up with Seattle winning 30-23,
Okay.
and I thought that was weird, and I rolled with it. I should have changed some of the other picks that my model came up with but we'll talk about that later. But when you look at it, Seattle is, I believe they're top in the division. Yeah, they're number one team in their division so far. Geno Smith he's like the third or fourth best rated passer in the league currently this year, which is crazy.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
And yeah, and it's like Pete Carroll knew something that everyone else didn't know because everyone and their mother was calling this a rebuilding year for Seattle.
Yep.
And I mean, they have legit playoff aspirations this year,
Well,
legit division champion aspirations this year too.
yeah, and something that's wild that I was listening to the radio earlier today. They were saying Seattle has 5 rookies playing significant starting reps. And so it's like,
Hmm.
it's almost like, yeah, it is a little bit of a rebuild, but these guys fucking hit the ground running, man. Like
Yeah.
they have two rookie tackles, which has like made that offensive line look night and day from where it was in the Russell Wilson era. You got Kenneth Walker, he's starting, and he's been highly effective since Rashad Penny went down. You got Tariq Woolen in the secondary. He's been amazing. He looks like the next Richard Sherman in that secondary. And then I forget the fifth guy, but there's another guy that's getting it done. And I mean, if you can knock out a rookie class like that, man, holy shit, it can like
Hmm.
totally change your franchise.
Yeah, it's just I see what you're saying. It's more. It's like part of it possibly is that nobody expected the rookies to be as good as they have been. And I'll give you that, but it's still a little bit. It's crazy to me that who would have thought that, like, honestly, going into the season, I thought the records for Denver and Seattle would be flipped,
Oh yeah, oh
and
yeah,
it's clear that Seattle has at this point probably overall won the Wilson trade, which is crazy to me.
yep.
And which last week, over the weekend, it came out that Wilson had a hamstring injury and he was being sat. It was was it over the weekend or was it during? It was over the weekend. It was total bullshit.
Okay, they just needed to shake it up
If you're
because he was sucking.
no 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 no. If your star quarterback comes to you and says, "I want to play," the only reason the coach doesn't play him is so on the off chance that they win the game when you're struggling like this, like they are, you win the game and you can go to the ownership and say, "See, it's not me. The
Yeah,
problem's Russell." And
yeah.
they can't get rid of Wilson, so he could freaking save his job.
But
And
that didn't work.
which
That didn't happen.
that that didn't happen. But
Which
also
which means it is the coach.
I'm hearing rumblings that if London doesn't go well for them, that they'll fire him before the flight.
They should. They should. I've
Yeah.
been telling you they should be calling Sean Payton for weeks. And I know you're
Yeah,
saying
and
the Saints still have rights to him and it's not that simple, but fucking do something. This is for a
mhm,
guy that's supposed to be like a really savvy offensive minded guy coming from Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers to be falling this flat on his face offensively
mhm.
with a team that has a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. Just no excuse, man.
Yeah, and the only argument for not firing him really is how much because they gave him a big contract apparently.
Yeah, so you're gonna
But
eat it,
this
but
here's but so I heard I think it was Adam Schefter on Sports Talk Radio this week, and he said more or less that the owners of the Broncos make more in interest than they will have to pay or Nathaniel Hackett for the buyout in the next 20 minutes they'll make more in interest.
oh well,
So it's like
then
chump
yeah,
change to
just
them.
do it then. Yeah. So make the move, you know? I wouldn't even wait.
Exactly. It's,
I
yeah,
would
I would have done it before you got on the flight. I'm not gonna send you to London and put you in a hotel room. You fucking blow.
yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's horrible, but um all right, man. Any other surprises from this past week? I mean, I don't know if you could be surprised that Washington beat Green Bay. We kind of talked about it. Washington having that quarterback change might spur some life into
Yeah.
them, and Green Bay's been way
And
off this year.
and I when we made our picks last week, I was like, I want to I want to pick Washington, but I just like
Hmm.
I can't pick them. Like something is preventing me from picking. Like mentally,
It's
it's just
tough.
like
It's tough.
something. It's. But I was not surprised. I think I told you over the weekend. I said I wish I had the balls to pick them. Maybe I would have had a better week.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the injuries then. And I know that this is last night as a part of week 8, but Shaq Barrett went down. Looks like he's going to be out for the year with a torn Achilles. That's going to be a big blow to that Tampa Bay defense. Um, I think the big one from week 7 was Brees Hall going down for the Jets. And they've since made a trade to bring in James Robinson from Jacksonville to help kind of
Mhm.
mitigate some of that. But that's a big hit. I mean, he was looking fucking like a shoe in for Rookie of the Year, man.
Yeah, he would have been rookie of the year. They also lost Elijah Vera Tucker from the offensive line.
Yep.
Uh, what else happened? I guess Corey Davis is out this week.
Okay.
Like they have some serious injuries with the Jets, which is concerning. This is just not a good week at all, especially for fantasy for me.
Oh, we're gonna go talk about your fantasy team, James, huh?
Yeah,
Hey,
you're
I'm
just
sitting at
bitter because
fucking
I
one
beat
and
you out.
five, dude. Uh,
I'm
no,
two
hey,
and four, so it's not like.
yeah, I feel your pain, man. No, I mean, it was tough. Like for me, through the first couple weeks, I was leading the league in points, but I didn't have a win because every week I played the
Mhm.
top point scorer. And so it's like, and then my team fell off, and now it's just like, okay, I'm pretty much done because we only have top six making the playoffs. So unless I go on like some amazing run from here, this season's a wash for me. But I'll say this, in positive news, I got some sweet keeper options because Kenneth Walker looks good. Damian
Mhm.
Pierce looks good. Brian Robinson, maybe, the third out of that group, but he's showing potential since he's been back on the field. Uh, you know, and so I don't know. I feel like, hey, I won it last year. Even if this year's a disaster, I maybe have some solid keeper picks to carry into next year. So,
Mhm. Yeah, that's how I kind of looked at this year is resetting my keepers because of what happened. But I mean, it's just the biggest injury news of the week was what's his face? Jamar Chase is out for 4 to 6 weeks
oh,
with a hip
yeah.
injury.
Yeah, forgot
Um,
about that one.
who else? Debo Samuel's out, at least out this week with a hamstring injury. Zeke's out this week. I forget what his injury is. It's just like uh, Zeke was like he hyperextended his knee.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. Um, who else was out? I forget. At least Swift's back for the Lions this week. I mean, it's about damn time. Fucking Andrews has a AC joint injury, like in
Oh,
his
man,
shoulder,
that's not good. Yeah, I know he left that
and
game, and Isaiah Likely played great, the rookie. He had a phenomenal
Mhm.
preseason. Um, yeah, I don't know.
it depends on the grade. It's anywhere from he could be out a week to he could be out 6 weeks,
Okay. Well, maybe not so
which is
much pressure to
crazy.
rush him back if Likely keeps playing like this.
Yeah. I just who else? Like half the Green Bay wide receivers are out.
Well, all right.
Michael
Well,
Thomas is out, and it's just like Jesus Christ.
so you know, I guess let's talk about some of the trades because we're coming up on the trade
Before
deadline.
we get to the trades, before
Okay.
we get to the trades, Matt Ryan has been benched
Okay.
in Indy for Sam Ellinger,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
which
one to point out. Yeah.
it is it is
Because he
not a
did get
football
hurt,
decision.
but it's not injury related. He's being benched because of the
Right.
turnovers.
No, he's being benched because it's a financial decision.
Oh, I didn't know
Because if he
that. I,
gets
I heard
hurt,
it was a
if
turnover
he
thing.
gets if he gets hurt and can't pass his physical on the second day of the league year, his salary next year becomes guaranteed.
Okay.
And they've already decided that he's not going to be their quarterback next year.
So they don't want to take that
So
risk.
they don't want to take that risk. He will not play. Ellinger gets hurt, whoever's behind Ellinger will
Oh,
play.
it's Nick
Guy
Foles.
that guy gets yeah, Nick Foles. Nick Foles gets hurt, they'll go
Yeah.
find somebody off the street before they play Matt
Yeah.
Ryan.
I was actually
Because if he gets
surprised
injured,
that they didn't go to Nick Foles first, but Frank Reich has
Mhm.
come out saying Ellinger's been showing a lot of good stuff in
Well,
practice and somehow has
it's
leapfrogged Foles, but that's fine. Let's see what he's got.
it's he's leapfrogged Foles because they have to see what they have. He's a rookie or second year player, and so they have to see what they have
I
in
know he's
him
young. I don't know
because
if it's year one or two, but yeah.
otherwise, if they have to see what they have in him, because they have to determine whether or not
Well,
they
no,
need to draft a quarterback.
I know what you're saying, but like I was looking at it as the Colts are sitting at 3-3-1. So their season for playoffs, you're still in play. And so it seemed to me like go to Foles. Historically in a pinch, he's been able to come off the bench and win some games. That keeps you on track while you figure this thing out. If he falters and you're out of the playoff run, then at some point you go to Ellinger. But um, if he's playing better than Foles, well then yeah, I mean you want your best chance to win. Plus you get that added bonus of just seeing what you had in the guy anyhow. So I guess I'm okay with that. That's why I was saying I was surprised. I would have thought
Right.
Foles would have been the most seasoned guy to give him that chance for the playoff run still.
I'll give you that. But also it's I was right. It's his second year. He was a 2021 draft pick.
Okay.
It's just it's crazy how far off that team is from what at least what I thought they would be coming into the season.
Well, and I'll say this: the offensive line this year has been really shaky, which was unexpected by anyone. The Colts have had such a great offensive line for a couple years now, and this year it just hasn't been clicking. And that's kind of like contributed to Jonathan Taylor also not having success. And then he got hurt for a while, missed some time. And just all of that ended up making the quarterback situation dicey. And then a lot of what I've been hearing too is that the receivers aren't even getting open. And so it's like, it's like all the things that could go wrong are going wrong on the offensive side of the ball. Then on defense,
Hmm.
you got Shaq Leonard hasn't been playing all year, which he's like just now finally coming back. Jonathan Taylor's like just finally getting healthy. It's like this is actually a really good time, I think, kind of like what you're saying, to see what Ellinger's got because he's got some things improving around him on the team. And so, I think that I would have probably waited a few more weeks because now you got Leonard back. Maybe that defense shows up. You know, Jonathan Taylor's healthier. Maybe he can put the team on his back a little bit. And it's like, yeah, you still got a shot at this thing. If Ellinger comes in and he looks like he's got no experience because he doesn't, well, then you're just throwing the season out.
Yeah, that makes a good point.
But it's okay. I'm not a
Outside of
head
that,
coach. I don't get paid those big bucks. So,
apparently the Panthers aren't tanking because they were offered two first round picks for Brian Burns, and they
ooh,
said no.
ooh, man. I like Brian Burns.
Yeah.
But if I was
Um,
them, I probably would have taken the picks because they're in trouble, man. But I mean, I like it. They got some surprise upset over Tampa Bay. They're feeling good. Whatever. I don't know.
that was before the game. That
Okay.
was before the win over Tampa.
Yeah.
Because
I
it was
don't know.
reported on the it was reported on Sunday. So apparently they told the team their response was we are not trading Burns.
Well, then they just view him as
And
a cornerstone for that team, and that's fine too.
yeah,
Um,
right,
yeah.
which is fine. I just thought that was interesting that it's not they're not completely giving up on the season. They just
Yeah.
have somewhat of an appearance to give up on the season. Um, non-trade news: Broncos are apparently getting calls for Chubb, Judy, and Hamler.
Yep. I heard a little bit
Um,
about that. Yeah. And they might as well
they,
I mean, at least move Hamler. It's like pick one, Judy or Hamler. And I know Hamler's missed some time this year with injury, Uh, if I was between the two of them, I'll tell you what, James, coming into this year, I thought Hamler was going to be the Tyler Lockett of the Broncos because he's just a
Mm-hmm.
burner that never really had a quarterback that could throw the deep ball like that. I thought Wilson was going to bring that out of him. He's been hurt. It's not worked. Nothing's worked on that offense. But then Judy, on the other hand, high draft pick, all sorts of hype, and he just doesn't get it done, dude. He fucking drops passes. I don't know. I just like just the look and feel of him. It's like you can see the skill is there. It's almost like he's not trying as hard as he could be or something. And I know that that's like a dick thing to say because I don't know how hard he's really trying. It's just it's like you see enough of these glimpses of he's got that skill, but then he just fucking makes the mental errors, drops an easy pass or whatever, and it just yeah. If I was them, I'd be making moves, man. If you're not making a coaching change
Yeah,
like right now, make some moves.
yeah. Then the the Giants traded Kadarius Toney to the Chiefs for a third and a sixth round pick. And I say good on the Giants. Tony didn't want to be there. He had three targets,
Yep.
three three targets this entire season. He was unhappy. You know what? You know what? You don't like what's going on. You don't want to be part of this team.
Yeah.
Go ahead, get out of here. And they got a couple picks back. Yeah, lower rounds, but still they got picks back for him. Like, who cares? 2 years ago they picked him in the first round. Who
Yeah.
cares? He wasn't fitting in anyways.
Yeah. He
He
was
was.
complaining about his
Wasn't Kadarius Toney the
shoes,
guy?
and yeah. I mean,
Yeah, didn't he show up to practice barefoot or something?
yeah.
And
And I mean, here's what I'll
and I
say.
bet you, I bet you, as soon as
Oops.
he gets to Kansas City, he's like, "Oh, I'm healthy."
Oh yeah. No, I'm sure it's going to be that way, and I suspected that a number of the reasons why they ruled him out this year was because he was a little bit hurt and they just didn't want to mess with him anyhow, so it was just easy to do. But um, I thought that this was a really smart chance by Kansas City because when Tony came out in the draft, they compared his short area burst to fucking Tyreek Hill. And,
Hmm.
you know, obviously Tyreek Hill's gone, but it's like if you can unlock that with him, he still can live up to that first round grade, just not with the team that made him that first round guy.
Yeah, I it makes a lot of sense. I love the trade for both teams. I think it's better for the Giants because
Yeah,
you get rid of that dissent in the locker room, and you don't want anything really to derail the season because the Giants have six wins this year. They're 6-1, 5-2, 6-1.
6-1,
Um,
man.
yeah, the Giants are 6-1. I mean, shit. Over the last 6, 7 years, I think they had a total of 6 wins.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, Tony was from the last regime. There's no reason to hang on to him. I agree with everything you're saying. It was good both ways.
Yeah. And outside of that, before we get to the last one,
Yeah, I saw Robert Quinn. He's on the move
no, no,
from
that
Chicago.
was the last one. I wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else. Yeah. Okay. Robert Quinn, Philadelphia, the, who has probably the best trenches on both sides of the ball
Yeah,
in the league, the best offensive and the best defensive line, fucking get better by trading for Robert Quinn, um, for a fourth round pick.
yeah.
Crazy.
Well,
Um,
Quinn's numbers have been down this year. Still talented. You know, I heard somebody talking about it the other day when it came out that um, it's likely that he, at least for a little while, is going to be buried in that depth chart because of how stacked they
mhm,
are on the defensive line. But it's a very smart move by them nonetheless because you don't know when anybody might go down, and you know that your strength
mhm.
is in the trenches. You want to be as deep as you can to preserve that potential playoff run that looks like it's going to happen for them.
Oh, totally. I I don't care if he plays. It's a depth move,
Yeah,
100%. But Philadelphia has the makings of a special season.
yeah,
They have the makings of a Super Bowl season. You can't let you have to reinforce the areas where you're strong to make sure that if somebody gets hurt, you're not taking a step back as a whole team
yeah.
because that's your strong area, your best area. So it's a freaking awesome move by them. It's a fourth round pick. Who cares? We can throw away a fourth round pick. How many fourth round picks from last year's draft actually made the team?
Oh,
It's rhetorical. I mean, it's
yeah, yeah. No, I think it was, Philly is they've been savvy with these kind of moves over the years, man. I mean, it's like it's not fair. It just feels not fair. They're that good at pulling this kind of shit off.
oh, I agree. It's not fair at all.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I'm gonna be an Eagles fan. No, and I mean, Philly, it's like you compare Philly with the Giants, and it's like everybody's blown away surprised by what the Giants are doing. People, to some degree, are surprised about the Eagles, but the smart people that have been watching that team saw that they had that shot this year. It just all depended on was Hurts going to take that step forward because it looked like they put all the pieces around him and it looked like they put the pieces on that defense and it did all come together. And so it's like the story behind the Eagles is very believable. It's still like the Giants is the one that it's still hard to come to grips with because it's just like
Mhm.
you look at the talent on that roster and you're just like I don't know. I mean, like Barkley is like the one guy really who's had like a revival. Everything else is just like, man, really? Like Daniel Jones? I don't know. Like, and then the receivers are like revolvingly hurt. It's like the defense, yeah, I don't know. It just, but they're getting it done. And it's like for them, it's like coaching is like the miracle, but like the Eagles, it's like everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I'm surprised, and I I thought coming in the season that the Eagles were going to make the playoffs and they were going to win their division. I did not think that they would be sitting 6-0 as the last undefeated team,
Yeah.
which is which it just blows my mind. And it's like every week in and week out, they're just finding ways to win. Well, except for last week, they're just finding ways to win every week. The joke was last week because they didn't play a game. Um, but yeah, it it's crazy. Like the thing that makes made like what you said about them year in year out and just make ridiculous trades like this is wasn't it like 3 years ago, like 5 years ago, like after they drafted Wentz and they still had Bradford right before the season, even though it was clear that Wentz was the quarterback of the future there, right before the season, didn't they trade Bradford to Minnesota for like a first round pick?
Oh man, I don't know if it was a first rounder, but yeah, they're dude, they're always wheeling and dealing, man.
Hmm.
And maybe it might have been because Bradford, he did have like sort of like a mid, I mean, if you could call it like a mid-career hype, like he finally got healthy, did a little bit, and it was like, oh, he was worth the rolling the dice on, and then he wasn't. But
Yeah, it was a first round pick and a
holy
conditional
shit,
fourth.
yeah, that's wild. It's hard to believe, is what it is, but they were that fucking good. Oh, is that how they got the pick to trade up for Wentz?
No, I believe they are. I thought they already had Wentz.
Because I vaguely remember they had to trade to get a second first rounder, and then they had to use their two first rounders to move up to 2 or whatever to get Wentz. But it was a while ago now,
No,
so I'm sure I'm foggy.
they already had they already had Wentz. It was in it was 2016. So I think they already had Wentz.
Okay.
I'll double check it. Um, let's see, they signed Bradford as a free agent. No, or no, he. Wait a minute, let me find the right year. Yeah, I am. Yeah, so that was the year 2016 before the trade and the draft that year was when they picked Wentz,
Okay.
and then they traded Bradford, who they just signed to a 2-year contract.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to remember. So then how, like timing wise, where did that align with the Teddy Bridgewater run in Minnesota? Was that
It
after
was
Bridgewater got
when
hurt?
yeah, it was right after Bridgewater got hurt because it was right before the
Okay.
start of the season.
Yeah, so yeah, they must have thought,
So,
hey, we've got a shot to make a run. Let's let's bring in Bradford. We'll pay the price. And then obviously it didn't work out, but um, you know,
okay, so the Eagles traded in the NFL draft. The Eagles traded their second round selection with a 2015 fourth round pick and Nick Foles to the St. Louis Rams in exchange for the Rams' 15th round or fifth round selection and Bradford.
okay.
So they traded for him going into that draft. I'm not seeing anything on the Wentz trade.
Yeah, it was complicated. I remember that. They had a number of moves to get the picks to move up.
Cleveland traded. No, it was. They didn't have to. It wasn't actually that complicated. It was
Well, then refresh my
Philadelphia.
memory.
All right. So Cleveland traded the number 2 pick overall and a conditional fifth round pick in the 2017 draft um, to Philadelphia in exchange for Philly's first, third, and fourth round pick in 2016 draft. It was 877 and 100, as well as Philadelphia's first round selection in 2017 and second round pick in 2018.
All right, yeah, then I'm thinking of a different team. I must be I don't know what I'm thinking. I know there was a team that had to like trade up to get another first round pick, and then they used those first 2 round picks to get into the top 3 for a quarterback. I thought that was the Wentz thing, but I must be
No,
mistaken.
is that the Trey Lance?
No, I mean I know that San Francisco traded the fucking farm, but I'm thinking a few years back, and so I got some wire crossed somewhere, but that's okay. Maybe one day I'll go digging into it and try to rectify that in my brain. But all right, so James, news wise, did you have anything else? Or are you ready to move it on over, man?
Um, the sad news of why Tom Brady's truly been distracted this year.
Okay.
Earlier today, Tom Brady and Giselle announced that they had finalized their divorce, which sucks. Um, and I think that is part of his distraction, his 11 days off and this and that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I can totally understand that. That is a huge life event and could mess you up. You know, it sucks that it's happening the way it's happening timing wise. Um, you know, and I think sometimes people look at it from the outside and they say, "Oh, it's fucking Tom Brady," and she's a supermodel and whatever. Like, oh, how bad could it be? They're both going to be totally fine and whatever. And I'm sure they will be, but they could also be hurting and have a lot of big things in life changing and distracting them, like you're saying. And so it's now affecting other people, which it just it's one of the tough parts about life, man. All these relationships, they don't always have a happy ending, man.
Yeah, they don't always have a happy ending. It's just, I mean, celebrities seem to get divorced more than normal people.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, more than non-celebrities. Celebrities are still normal,
Are they?
but I think so.
I don't know. I think some of them are just fucking batshit crazy, but I guess normal people can be batshit crazy too. All right, so come on, man. Let's move it on over. I
All
see
right,
you're digging deep. What are you looking at?
I'm looking for your supposed weird random trade for a quarterback.
Yeah, I don't even know how you research that. It's like you'd have to look at the quarterbacks that were drafted each year and then try to figure out the trades that led to that. And but it's all right. We'll worry about that later. Maybe I was, you know, high on mescaline or something and dreamed it all up. Probably not, but it's okay. So, moving on over. Moving on. Week 8 power rankings. James, get your sheet up. Give me your 1 through 5, man. I know you had a
All
ton
right,
of fucking
not much
changes you
move,
got to talk about.
not a lot of fucking movement in my 1 through 5.
Okay.
Philadelphia, Buffalo, 1 and 2. They were on buys. They're solid there. Kansas City 3. I couldn't move Kansas City even though they destroyed San Francisco because they lost to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Number 4, Cincinnati. Cincinnati didn't move because everybody here won. Dallas at number 5. They smoked Detroit. I left them at 5.
Great choice. Great choice. Yep. So my 1 through 4 did not change. Philly, Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati. We are totally aligned there. My 5, I bumped Minnesota 1 spot, even though they were on a bye, which was primarily because all the other teams I had in this range lost, and so they just got floated up as a result. And at 5-1, I didn't want to go rack my brain. The record's pretty good. Doesn't matter that maybe it's a little dicey how they got there. So that was my 5. Give me 6 through 10, man.
All right, at 6, let me see. Did I have any changes in here? I did. 6, I have the Giants. They stayed the same. I mean, this is about right for them for how they're playing right now. Um, Teams ahead of them won. Teams behind them won. They won. Baltimore at 7, they stayed the same. At number 8, I have Tennessee. They moved up 1 spot. Basically, I flipped San Francisco and Tennessee. I only moved San
Okay.
Francisco down 1 spot because San Francisco lost to my number 3 team. Yeah, they got smoked, but I think it's more of an explosion on the Chiefs than a real problem with San Francisco. I really also couldn't move them behind the Rams, who I moved up 1 spot even though they were on a bye because San Francisco most recently beat the Rams.
I got you. I got you. Okay. Yeah. So as you're saying that, I'm seeing that down further on my board, I have that as a discrepancy, but I will address that in a little bit. I've got Baltimore at 6, Dallas 7, then I got the Giants the Titans, and the Dolphins. Baltimore, they went up one, which was fine. I almost had them leapfrog Minnesota because the Vikings were on the bye, but I didn't. It's 7, the Cowboys, they went up two. It's great they beat Detroit. Yeah, whatever, but it's Detroit. The big thing is that their defense is still looking dominant, and they're going to get better as Dak shakes off the rust. And so I feel good about them being in the top 10. At 8 with the Giants, it's just like they're playing hero ball right now. And even though on paper they don't look like a 6-1 team, uh, they are 6-1, and so I can't keep fighting with it. They got a great head coach, and he's getting. It's almost like he's a new Vrabel. He's getting everything he can out of these guys, and I got to respect that. And then at 9, I've got the
Mhm.
Titans, who have Vrabel, and I moved them up 5 spots. It was a big jump. In recent weeks, we've seen their defense really clamp down, and we've seen Derrick Henry be a lot more successful than he was earlier in the season. Um, I still have some concerns about the talent level, and now I'm seeing that Tannehill is questionable this weekend. So there's some issues, but it just, like every year, Vrabel gets more out of these guys, and so I've slowly elevated them up my board. At 10 with the Dolphins, I moved them up 5 spots. I had paused them a little bit last week because I wanted to wait and see how they performed with Tua coming back. They didn't like blow out Pittsburgh by any means, but I think it was a great start, and they're going to start building up steam again. And so I'm good with them sneaking back into my top 10, man. Baked you at 11, homie.
Okay. Sorry, I think I found it. Um, at 11, I have Minnesota. They moved up 1 spot, even though they were on the bye. I moved the Chargers down 3 spots, and them vacating that 10 spot kind of moved these teams up with them being on the bye. Miami, I couldn't put Miami. I didn't feel right putting Miami above Minnesota or the Rams because I just I still need to see more. I was not impressed with the 16-10 win against
Pittsburgh with a backup,
Pittsburgh.
well, not a backup quarterback, but a rookie quarterback. And yeah,
Yeah, Chargers. I moved them down to 13 after getting basically blown out by Seattle. I probably would have moved them more, but a lot of teams in this range lost.
yeah.
So they only bottom out at 13. 14, I have Arizona. I moved them up 3 spots. You said it earlier. I don't trust Arizona, but then again, a lot of teams ahead of them lost. I got beat pretty badly.
Yeah.
So I mean, they ended up at 14. And the Jets, I moved the Jets up 3 spots. Yeah, it was an impressive win at Denver, but at some point you just kind of got to respect the record of 5-2.
Yep. I agree with you. Yeah, so at 11 and 12, I've got the Rams and the 49ers. And I did it that way because the Rams were on the bye. I didn't want to move them. But now that you have reminded me so kindly, James, I should have floated them down 1 spot because the Niners belong above them. And so we're just doing that on the fly here. All right, 13, I got the Chargers. I dropped them down 8 spots. I've been hanging on tight to these guys, but I'm starting to kind of let go. The injuries, they're just not overcoming them. I thought it was a bad loss to Seattle, even though I'm starting to have a lot more respect for Seattle. Either way, I had to get them out of my top 10. At 14, I've got the Buccaneers. I dropped them down 6 spots. This is a tough one. We talked about them earlier. They got a lot of talent, but that offensive line is the Achilles heel for them. They should not have lost to Carolina. That's the bottom line. I could have smoked them further on my board. I didn't. Um, I don't know. Maybe I'm still hanging on a little bit. But then at 15, I got the Jets. Similar to the Giants. I'm starting to respect them. I'm trying to not fight it. And I'll tell you the one thing that's different between the Jets and the Giants, James. It's like, and I think that I like this a lot more about the Jets because I think it means that they actually have more staying power potentially. Is their defensive line is really starting to come together, man. They've got some solid
Hmm.
talent on that defensive line. And I know the Giants, they drafted Thibodeau and, maybe that ends up boosting them. But man, I just like all the guys the Jets have on that line. But, I don't need to gush too much about it. Back to you at 16, man.
All right, at 16, I have Cleveland. Yeah, they lost to Baltimore 23-20, but the ebb and flow of the game, Cleveland kind of it was more, more. Uh, yeah, it was more Cleveland lost the game than Baltimore winning the game. But a lot of fucking teams in this area lost still.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like I have teams I'm coming up that I moved up spots even though they lost
Yeah, I
because
think,
that's how like volatile this area was.
yeah, I think the
So
way that
Cleveland stayed the same.
the way that you've treated Tampa Bay on your board is the way that I've treated Cleveland on my board. It's like we have like some similar opinions just in reverse. So
Hmm.
keep going, man.
17, I have New England. Um, they lost to Chicago. They lost pretty bad to Chicago. I'm placing the blame squarely on Belichick and not the team.
With the
I
coaching,
think
I mean the
Belichick fucked
quarterback
up the
thing.
game plan. Yeah, like the whole quarterback thing and this is the craziest fucking thing, but it's true. Mac Jones' last pass in that game, you can if you watch the play, he was throwing the ball away. It hit the wire for the aerial cam,
Oh,
redirected back into the field of play, and was intercepted. It is the craziest fucking thing.
yeah.
Like and that was like a huge momentum shift in the game. And
Jeez.
I just it I completely forgot about that till I was just saw it in my note. But I don't know how the fuck that happens and it's missed.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not. I don't. It's like if you punt and you hit the thing in Dallas, man. Don't they just let it go, or do they
It's
make you
it's
re-kick?
no, it's a dead ball. It's a dead ball. You re-kick. The play's dead.
Yeah, I mean, then it's one that could have been challenged or something, you know, unless they have a different rule for it
It's
because it's a
not a
pass.
challengeable. Well, it's not a challengeable play, and nobody saw it until like there was
Yeah,
somebody
until
watching
later
like
because it was so subtle. Yeah, it should be
yeah.
anything should be challengeable in the NFL now. If you
I
can
wouldn't go
challenge,
there.
if I'm just saying,
Remember the
if you can,
pass interference fiasco.
that's what I'm saying is if you can challenge pass interference, it's like, come on, dude. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get started.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. All right. Anyways, so I only moved New England down 3 spots. I didn't kill them as much as probably you did
Yeah.
for losing to Chicago.
I mean, I already had them down further on the board, but yeah.
At 18, I have Vegas. I moved them up 2 spots for beating Houston. Yeah, they beat Houston, big whoop, but a lot of teams here lost. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I move when I get to 20. So 19, I have New Orleans. I dropped them 4 spots for losing to Arizona, and this is also a function of they've announced that Andy Dalton is starting this week.
Yep.
Andy Dalton lost that fucking game. Why is he
Yeah.
starting? If Andy Dalton didn't throw 2 pick sixes, New Orleans would have won the game.
It's because he threw 4 touchdowns, and they think maybe he's less likely to have the repeat of turnovers as Jameis Winston is.
Oh, but still, Andy Dalton needs to get the fuck out of the NFL. He should not be starting for any fucking team in the NFL.
Okay.
At number 20, we just talked about how I moved Vegas up 2 spots for beating Houston. I moved Houston up 1 spot to 20 for losing to Vegas because all these teams here that I had in this area basically fucking lost
Choke the chicken.
and Yeah. So Houston is the lucky one that gets a spot. There's one of the lucky ones that gets a spot bump. There's an even luckier one coming up.
Okay. Yeah, so with me at 16, I've got Seattle. I moved them up 4 spots. We've talked about it. I feel like they've got that formula that works for them, and I'm getting more comfortable with them in this range. Although I am a little bit worried about what's going on with DK Metcalf. But they're sitting at 4-3, and I got them at 16 on my board. It feels right to me, and so I'm good with it, even though I never in my wildest dreams would have thought they would be here at this point in the season. But that's okay. 17, I got Green Bay. I dropped them down 4 spots. They've imploded. We've been talking about it every week. Rodgers is blaming everybody but himself. Go figure. And I don't know. Like the bottom line is, we're going into week 8, and I'm not seeing like some kind of silver bullet for them to just all of a sudden be better. The defense has been a disaster. They have no receivers. We've kind of known that, but historically, Rodgers has been able to make it work regardless. And then they've been very like intermittent with putting the focus on the running game, which it seemed to me like that was the go-to move. Was you got 2 great running backs. You look at what you did with Rodgers the first year LaFleur was there. You ran the shit out of the ball and it worked great. Like just go back to that. Like why are you like trying to tinker with this? And I don't know, but whatever. At 18, I got Indianapolis. I dropped them down 2 spots. I don't know where they go from here with Matt Ryan getting benched, but we did talk about the positives. They've got some guys coming back, and maybe a change at quarterback is going to give them that boost. It did for Washington last week. Anything can happen. 19, I got Atlanta. I dropped them a spot. It was a tough loss to Cincinnati, but ultimately, I think we all expected it. They're still far exceeding my expectations for the season, and so I'm good with them inside my top 20. And then at 20, I got Arizona. Um, I was tempted to put Arizona over Atlanta, but when I look at these teams with the sample size now, I feel like Atlanta is actually a more stable organization. Uh, Mariota has been good in that offense where they're getting creative and they're getting a lot of people involved. Their defense has been getting better every week. Arizona, on the other hand, they're a wild card any week. It's like this past week. They're going to put up fucking 44 points, and then some other weeks they're going to put up like fucking 10. And it's just like there's no rhyme or reason for it. They're just like so jagged. And so, with that being the case, I just felt Atlanta was a safer pick, a little more of a stable pick. And so that's my top 20, man. Give me 21 through
All right,
25, James.
21, I have Atlanta. The thing with Atlanta is they are next week they're going to be a little bit higher on my board, assuming they beat Carolina because of the fact that they're becoming the favorite in that division, which is crazy to say,
Yeah.
but they moved up 1 spot, even though they lost to Cincinnati. 22, I have Jacksonville. Now this is the lucky team. They moved up 2 spots off a loss. Did you see the highlight? Did you see the game or the highlights of the game?
Um, I'm sure I did. I'm just trying to remember. What I guess just tell me
So
what you're getting at, man.
very last play of the game, they were about that far from winning the game.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, and they did have the lead, but the Giants
Hmm.
had enough time on the clock to make the drive
Yeah,
and get it back. And so, yeah, no,
right.
I felt
And
like
they were
they
inches
should have
from
won
winning the
that
game.
game.
Yeah, they were literally inches from winning that game.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they almost beat a team I have in the top 10. So I had to give them a little bit of respect, move them up. I think dropped them a little bit too far down um, after loss, not last week, the week 6 loss.
Yeah.
Um, 23, I have Indianapolis. I didn't move them They stayed the same, and this is more of a function of one team that was ahead of them dropped way behind them, so they just stayed at 23. It's nothing about anything I see in Indy. I think their season's basically over. They just collapsed this year, and they're such a disappointment. 24, I have the Commies of Washington. Um, I moved them up to 3 spots. That was a big win over Green Bay. We'll get to Green Bay a little bit later, but I thought that was a big win. Big win over Green Bay, and I just had to give them a little respect for it. 25, I have Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh lost 16-10 to Miami. They have a rookie quarterback. Yeah, it was Tua's first game back, but I thought Pittsburgh looked really good. Plus, they're going to start getting like They designated this week T.J. Watt to return, so they have 5 days.
20,
I think it
21
is.
days. Oh,
No, like 5 days from when they designate him to return to have him back on his back on the active roster or something like that.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
exciting.
yeah, and then back to you for your 20 through 25.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you still
21
had
through
something
25.
there. All right, at
No,
21,
no, no.
I got the Raiders. They played Houston. I'm trying to temper my expectations, but they got a little bit of luck with the way my board shook out, so they went up 3. Jacksonville, I dropped them 3, and I agree with you. They played tough. They've been playing tough all year. I dropped them just because at some point you got to win. But I like that you and I were actually aligned with them now on our boards, both at 22. At 23, I got the Commanders. You know, whether it was Heineke coming in, giving them a boost, or it was Green Bay just being Green Bay, they got the win, which is good. And we'll see, man. I mean, Heineke has shown in the past that he can actually get that offense going, and that's not something Wentz was able to do this year. And,
Mhm.
you know, a lot of it that I saw was because of the offensive line. But, I mean, it was doing okay last week. And so, you know, maybe Heineke just is able to adjust with that a little bit better. I don't know. But either way,
I think Heineke's just a little bit more mobile than Wentz, and that little bit of mobility that he had, little additional mobility he has, is what's making the difference.
it's
But
just opening it up, man. I can see that. I
yeah,
believe it. Sometimes it's like the most subtle thing can change. Plus, you know, they've been getting, like we talked about, Brian Robinson. You know, he came back a few weeks ago, and it's like every week he's gonna get better. And I think that that
Mhm.
running game does help the offensive line, which in turn will, like all of this, will start coming together, which is good. But at 24, I got the Bears. I decided to give them some respect. Like I was kind of telling you, man, I see them as a little bit of like that Arizona Kyler Murray-ish sort of. If Justin Fields just takes over the game, they'll get these like random surprise wins like this. And so I love that you pointed out how they got him more mobile. I think that that is definitely the key for him in that offense. And if they stick to that, it'll be good for them. And then at 25, I got the Patriots. I dropped them down 3 spots. I think the quarterback rotation thing is a mess. In their lack of consistency on offense is biting them in the ass. You know, like through week 7, they basically have 2 respectable offensive showings. It's just not good, man. And, you know, they should be a lot further along by now. And I thought that they were. And I gave them the props last week. But now it's like here we are a week later, and I'm like, wow, I don't know if they're really getting better at all. So it's messed up.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, back to you at 26.
All right, 26. I have Seattle. I had to give them a little respect for beating the Chargers like they did. I moved them up 3 spots. Also, but it really was a 1 spot move up because 2 teams ahead of them fell down.
Okay.
Um, 27, I have Carolina. They beat Tampa Bay 21-3. I gave them a 3-spot boost. They're no longer borderline dumpster fire as of right now. We'll see what happens going forward. But if the team has a chance to win their division, I can't put them in the dumpster fire.
Okay.
Uh, 28, I have Denver. They stayed the same. It really was a 2-spot drop, but teams ahead of them moved behind them, so it ended up being the same. I have no faith whatsoever in Denver and Russ, and it's just it's a mess there, and they need to get rid of that coach. The only reason why they can't get rid of Russ is because the money they owe him will hit the cap, and it's absurd how much they owe him because they just re-signed him to like a 250 million 7-year fully guaranteed contract,
Yeah.
and he's laughing all the way to the bank with it.
Oh yeah.
29, I have Chicago. I gave them a 3-spot bump. I didn't give them as much as you did. Look, they only beat New England. Show me a little bit of consistency,
Yeah.
and we'll consider moving you up higher into like the mid 20s as opposed to the low 20s. At 30, I dropped this team 4 spots, and this was before last night's debacle. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fold the fucking franchise. This team is so bad. It's just ridiculous. Tom Brady's off. Tom Brady's distracted. Yeah, he got divorced, but he's fucking distracted. He's not committed to this team. He knew going into the offseason that this team wasn't going to be any good, so he retired. And then for some reason, he decided to unretire. I think what happened, and this is pure speculation on my part, and I'm not talking shit about anybody. I think what happened is he retired and he was around the house and Giselle said, I'm going to get a divorce, so you might as well play football. Um,
Hey, you never know. You never know.
it's purely speculation, but I just he looks like a 45-year-old quarterback that's distracted because he
Yeah.
is a 45-year-old quarterback that's distracted, and it's hurting the team. Yeah, you have offensive line issues. You have the receivers are dropping balls, but his throws are just slightly off too, or they're not. He's
Yeah.
not on the same page
No,
with
he
his
he missed
receivers.
last night two plays. He missed guys that were wide open for touchdowns. And so yeah, I mean
Hmm.
it's not just the offensive line. It is also him being off too.
Yeah. So I have them on dumpster fire alert. If any of the teams that I have below them win, they might end up in the dumpster fire.
Ruthless. Ruthless. Okay, so at 26, I've got Cleveland, and they're my redheaded stepchild right now, James. I just think, fuck these guys. They're so talented, and they could, I've been saying it every week. They could just fucking run the shit out of the ball and win most of their games. But whatever the hell they're doing, it's just messed up and it's not working, and it's really making me angry at this point. At 27, I've got the Saints. I dropped them down two. I had a note here, James, that they've got uh, like the shittiest possible quarterback controversy is that they're stuck deciding between two backup quarterbacks. One of them's got to start. It's like, oh hey, you got two good quarterbacks. Yeah, whatever. You don't really have one. Yeah, they don't have two good quarterbacks. They have two backups, and they know they're backups, and they're just like going through the ebb and flow of which one are they going to roll with. And it's like
Hmm.
Taysom Hill, he's the one guy that like lit him up the one week, and he's not even in the conversation, but that's okay. At 28, I got Denver. I dropped them two. We've covered them. They're fucked. 29, I got Pittsburgh. I dropped them down one spot. I think that their trajectory is going to start moving upward. I think that they're bottomed, and Pickett's going to start getting a little bit better every week potentially. TJ Watt maybe doesn't come back this week, but he'll be back within whatever it is, 3 weeks, or he's going to be on IR for the year. So I think he will be back. That'll help him. And so I don't know. And Tomlin's just a good coach, but it's still going to be a rough year for them. At 30, I've got Carolina. I get it, huge upset over Tampa Bay. I just think it was like a one-hit wonder for them. I don't see them repeating that kind of performance. If they do, that's cool. I will gladly move them up my board. But from what I've seen so far this year, I just can't trust it. So over to you, man. Give me your dumpster fire, James.
And this is going to shock people that this team is in my dumpster fire. You probably saw it and you said, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I
I
mean, by
dropped Green
now,
Bay
the
12
process of
spots.
deduction.
I
Sorry.
dropped Green Bay 12 spots to number 31. And the reason is this team is in chaos. They have I don't even know who they're lining up at wide receiver this week. They don't know how to use the running game. They don't know how to use where's AJ Dillon? Where's Aaron Jones been? Yeah, he had a good game this past week, but why not line up Aaron Jones in the slot or run the ball a little bit. The defense is pathetic. I mean, they they let a backup quarterback put up 23 points on them. It's just, they're just terrible. And if it weren't for the Detroit Lions, they would be number 32 currently on my board. But the Detroit Lions are just
Yeah.
they're the Detroit Lions. I don't know what the fuck to say about them. They just piss me off, and I'm going to start cursing even more if I talk about them. So back to you for your dumpster fire.
Okay, back to me. Okay. Yeah, so I've got Detroit at 31, James. I dropped them down 2 spots. I was tempted to move them to 32, but I just thought them and Houston both sitting at 1 win. I had Detroit above Houston previously, so I just kept the order the same. I don't know, how I feel about either of these teams in terms of who could beat who, and so they both just got the same equal 2 spot drop. So Houston's my last team on the board here. I'm bummed out. I was encouraged by Houston, and then obviously I'm always hopeful for the Lions, but um, you know, I mean, I guess you can say the only place to go from here is up, but they could just stay here for a while. Oh, that's the Lions. They could stay here for a while.
I was going to say we'll find out who can beat who in a couple weeks, but it's Jacksonville they play, not Houston
Yeah, and I might
from
be
the
going to
South.
that game. So, I'm hoping that'll be a win for the Lions, but probably not. All right.
With that
So,
defense, you never fucking know.
yeah, no, you don't know. All right. So those are the power rankings, James. Let's move it on over to the game picks, man, and I'll let you kind of lead the show here. Why don't you kick it off?
So last week I had a fucking terrible week. You gained 4 games on me.
Yeah, I think I went up 4 on you.
Let me double check that. I think it was 4 more. So you're up by 6.
Yeah, I think I was up 4, and now I'm up by 8. And so if my
Yeah.
records are right,
You
which
you got
I would hope, yeah,
yeah, you got 9 right, and I got 5 right last week. Fucking terrible week. At least you were above 500. So it puts the season total at you're at 56%, and I'm sub 500. You're moving up, I'm moving down. I'm at 48% again, and I don't
oh,
know. It's just bad. It's just bad. It's bad. It's bad. I have to figure it out. I revamped my my model a little bit this week, and I came up with some fucked up picks, and it was like, wait a minute, but I can't figure it out. Um, I think I just got to go back to my old way of doing picks and not use the model, but that's okay.
yeah, it's
Last
like
night
you're
we both were
psyching
on
yourself
Baltimore.
out, man.
Last night we were both on Baltimore. I actually had it at in my this is the thing. Like my model comes up with some games that where it's like, oh yeah, like your model's right. Like your model's doing what it should be doing. Um, I had Baltimore, like it almost predicts the exact score. I had Baltimore winning 29-20 in my model. So there's some things right about my model. There's some things way off about my. Okay, I digress.
Okay.
Where did I just accidentally close my spreadsheet? So
Yeah, and
give me
I had Baltimore also, which for me, my model picked Tampa Bay to win. Uh, it was by like 2 points, and I kept like going back at it, and I'm like, that can't be right. And so I just that was like the first one I had to override for the week. I just thought, no, I can't trust Tampa Bay. I don't care if it's in Tampa Bay. I'm going with Baltimore. And I even like sent you a message like right before halftime when Baltimore went for it on like that 4th and 2 or whatever, and they didn't get it. I was pissed. It was like, dude, you're down 3-10. Take the points because
yeah.
if this is one of those dogfight defensive games, you're going to kick yourself later. And honestly, it wasn't really until the fourth quarter that the points started going. And I was just sitting there like, wow, Harbaugh's going to fuck himself by being that aggressive again. But it ended up paying off. They worked out and they're fine. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So then the first game of the weekend, in London, we have Denver Broncos and Jacksonville Jaguars. And when I looked at this game, like my model came up with Denver winning this game.
Okay.
It's like, what the fuck? I don't know how I can justify that. I can justify it. I actually initially chose to override my model on this pick and go to Jacksonville, but I'm gonna go with Denver. Jacksonville has lost the last six games that they've lost outright. The last 6 games they were the favorite in,
Okay.
and they're currently favored by 2.5 points. So this is going to be the seventh game in a row. That the the 6 game streak is tied for. It's only the seventh longest for losing as a favorite in the NFL in the Super Bowl era. So apparently other teams have been worse, which is surprising. But I'm gonna flip it to Denver for this week.
Okay.
I'm
I
gonna bite
got you.
myself in the ass, and I'm gonna keep doing. Sorry, I keep changing or overriding my model and not overriding my model, and I can't figure out which games to override versus not override on yet. But we'll
I
see.
got you. But you're going Denver.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
going Denver.
okay. I'm going Jacksonville, and I've got Jacksonville winning by 5. When I look at my matchup, these teams are actually very evenly matched up. I show Denver having a much stronger secondary, um, whereas the Jacksonville offensive line is a little bit better, in my opinion, than the Denver offensive line. Um, but I just think with the teams being kind of that close on paper, it's the coaching that's going to be the difference. And I really like Doug Peterson and his staff more than Hackett. And so I'm going to give it to them. They've both been very streaky, and both of them have struggled to close out games. So I wouldn't be surprised either way it goes. And it's interesting what you're saying about Jacksonville, but I'm going to stick with them in this one.
Uh, and then we get into the 10 o'clock games. We start with Carolina at Atlanta.
1 o'clock out here, James. But yeah,
I said 1 o'clock, didn't I? Did I say 10 o'clock?
you said 10 o'clock.
Sorry,
Hey,
it's
you're
ten
West
o'clock where I
Coast.
am.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, um, I just think there's a shot for Carolina to win this game. I think they may have caught lightning in the bottle a little bit with the win over Tampa, and if they can keep that rolling, they have that momentum going. They have a solid shot at winning the game. I don't think they can do that. Um, Atlanta against Carolina is 9-3 against the spread in the last since 2016. and Atlanta's favored by 4 points, so I'm going to go with Atlanta.
Okay. So James, this is one where when I did the final updates for the injuries, the model actually shifted in Carolina's favor, where it has them winning by 1 point. But I'm overriding it and I'm picking Atlanta. I trust them more. I think that they're playing above average football, especially on offense. They've been very creative. We talk a lot about that. Uh, I think Carolina's better defensively, but I think Atlanta is improving in that area. And I just don't know what we're going to get out of Carolina's offense. And so if this game comes down to, as most games do, which team can score more, I think Atlanta has the favor. And so I'm sticking with them, even though my model says Carolina.
All right. Then we have the Bears at the Cowboys. This game bugs me because my model has it real has like a 10-point game. Um, the absence of Zeke bugs me a little bit because Zeke gets so much playing time because of the fact that what he does in the passing game, the
Yeah.
blocking in the passing game is so much better than Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is the better running back. Zeke is a better pass blocker, and so the absence of Zeke concerns me greatly for the Cowboys
Okay.
because I just think that you're going to miss something on that offensive line. The Bears, apparently, according to what seeing, the Bears have the number one ranked rush offense in the league, which is crazy. And Dallas has the 20th ranked rushing defense in the league.
Okay.
So it's kind of like strength versus weakness on it. I think the key to this game is the turnover margin. If Dallas this year, Dallas has our plus turn on the turnover side, our positive turnover margin. They're 4-0. They're 1-2 when they have a turnover margin of 0 or worse. Um, and the Bears have had 9 straight games with at least 1 turnover.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Dallas hesitantly without Zeke, but I'm going to go with Dallas.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I
And
mean,
I forgot. Did you actually switch to Carolina, or you stayed with Atlanta?
I'm staying with Atlanta.
Oh,
Yeah. So what I was
sorry.
saying is that when I originally sent you the picks, my model had it as Atlanta. It since I updated for the injuries, shifted to Carolina, but I'm sticking with Atlanta. And so yeah, for Dallas and Chicago, I'm taking Dallas. It's in Dallas. My model has them heavily favored. The heat map is almost entirely green for Dallas. I think, you know, Chicago's got that little bit of that wild card feel, like I mentioned, with like Fields being kind of like Kyler Murray-ish. But um, I think Dallas's defense is just really fucking good this year, and I just feel a lot better about Dallas. I feel very comfortable about picking them in this game, actually. So I'm going Dallas here.
Uh, oh, excuse me. Next, we have the Miami
Detroit.
Dolphins and the fucking pathetic Detroit Lions.
Oh, the dumpster fire Lions.
After this week, they won't be in the dumpster fire. Detroit has won 3 straight games against Miami. Yeah, you're talking over a 12-year period. 2010, 2014, 2018, 20, and 2022 is. Okay. Some of those teams, let's be honest, all those Detroit teams were pathetic. I mean, you're talking 7-9, um, or worse, and somehow they still beat the Miami Dolphins.
So it must have been
So
what, 2006 then was the Joey Harrington revenge game.
yeah, the last time they lost to the Miami Dolphins was 2006. So
Okay.
2010, the Lions were 6-10. 2014 they were a good team. They were 11-5.
Caldwell.
In 2018 they were 6-10. Then we go over to the Miami Dolphins in those years. They weren't. I don't know if they were that much better. I just want to look. I'm trying to talk myself out of
uh, taking
picking
Detroit.
of what my model says. Yeah, I'm really trying to talk myself out of it. It's not working. Um,
I mean, the only thing I would tell you is it is in Detroit. Otherwise, I can't. I mean, while you're hesitating, I'll just tell you, I'm Miami. My model's got Miami by 10.5, and that's on the road, which would really mean like 13.5 elsewhere. But my heat map, the only category Detroit's in the green is on the offensive line. But it doesn't even matter because when you look at Detroit's defensive front seven against Miami's offensive line, Miami should be just fine. And I know Armstead's been a little bit hurt and stuff like that, but um, I got to take Miami, man. It's just too far of a spread, my model. Go with your heart. Oh, wait, maybe not when it's the Lions. Don't go with your heart when it's the Lions. Go with your gut.
all right. So I had earlier today reverted my model way back.
Okay.
Took out the home field advantage. Took out the streak. The recent history against the team. Recent is very relative because it's kind of hard to delineate when you're playing again. I'll play a team every 4 years. Um, I took everything out of my model, and I still came up with a 33 to 30 score with the Detroit Lions winning.
Dan Campbell revenge game. He was the interim head coach for the Dolphins back in the day. So maybe he's going in with some fire.
Wasn't he the coach of the Dolphins the
I,
last time
they
the
beat Detroit.
Dolphins beat Detroit? Because wasn't it?
Yeah,
Or
he
was it
might.
the?
Was it 2018
No,
or
no,
was it
no, no.
before when he was the coach of the Dolphins? I don't remember. It was just like 6 games or something. Like it was just like the back half of the year. But I was surprised that they didn't actually hang on to him because he had that team fired up back then, man. Oh,
Yeah, I want to see something real quick.
yeah. Did he beat the Lions?
No, he was still playing then. He was on that Lions team.
Uh,
That was his first year with the Lions. He
okay.
was he was the he was the interim head coach in 2015 for the Dolphins. Um, so he was a coach on Dolphins for one of those the 2014 loss to the Lions. Oh, fuck it. I'm just gonna stick with my model. I'm gonna go with the Lions. I've tried every which way, and I'm just
Yeah,
killing time. I can't
yeah.
figure out how to get out of the picking the Lions. So I'm just gonna go with them.
Okay. That's why you do models, man. If all else fails, you fall back on the model.
Next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals at the Minnesota Vikings. I don't like this game at all. I don't like Arizona. I don't like Minnesota. Um, but ultimately, my model came up with Minnesota winning by 3 points, and Minnesota's like what, like 5-1. At some
Yeah.
point you gotta believe in them.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with Minnesota.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I feel better about the Vikings at 5-1 than I do the Giants at 6-1. But when you look at the Vikings, it's like they had that one game they were behind in the fourth quarter against Chicago, and it's just strange. They've been choppy. Um, but the one thing I do like about them is that like from top to bottom they're healthy, and at this point in the year, that says something. That usually bodes well for your season. And so I like Minnesota. My model, I have this one like it's a variable depending on Kyler Murray because he's such a wild card. I give him kind of a high and a low. And if he hits the high, I've got Arizona winning by 1.5. If he hits like kind of the low, which, I say low, but it's not like a bad game, just like a average kind of play. It has Minnesota by 3. I just feel better about Minnesota. And so even though like my true model just edges for Arizona, I'm taking Minnesota in this game. I'm taking the Vikings.
All right. Next up, we have the Raiders at New Orleans. Um, Interesting tidbits about this game. Josh Jacobs has a chance to become the fifth player in NFL history with at least 150 scrimmage yards and a rushing TD in 4 straight games. Can you name the other 4 players?
Jim Brown,
No,
um, Walter Payton,
no,
Barry Sanders.
no.
I just struck out.
LaDainian Tomlinson, Larry Johnson, Priest Holmes, and Terrell Davis.
I was gonna say LaDainian Tomlinson, but Jim Brown came to my head first, and then yeah, I guess Larry Johnson. I do remember he had like that one like really badass year. Priest Holmes was the same thing. He had a really badass. I think he had a couple really badass years. Um, and then yeah, I guess I probably if I was thinking of that era, I might have even Sean Alexander. I know he had like one crazy year, but maybe he didn't hit this particular streak.
Yeah, it's the only thing. The only other interesting thing about this game is the reason Derek Carr is a Raider is because Dennis Allen drafted him. Outside of that, there's not much interesting about this game at all. It's a 2-4 team at a 2-5 team. Um, my model has it as a 3-point win by the Raiders. I can't trust Andy Dalton, so I'm going to go with the
Oh,
Raiders.
yeah, I got you. I've got the Raiders by 3.5 in my model, and I think their offense is getting better, especially because of the running game, as you've pointed out. I think it's just a matter of is the defense gonna let their offense do enough to get it done, and with how bad New Orleans has been, I feel like that can happen. But I don't have a lot of conviction in this game because, like, I mean, we just saw New Orleans put up a bunch of points last week, but their defense let up even more. And so it just, I think the narrative says Las Vegas. The start of the year was a disaster for them. But I'm all right. I'm taking the Raiders. I'm good with that.
Next up, we have the Patriots at the Jets. This is interesting. This is the first time that the Jets and Patriots have matched up under Bill Belichick. That the Jets had a better record than the Patriots since week 12 of 2001. Both these quarterbacks were drafted in the first round. Um, Zach Wilson is 4-0 against Mac Jones. How did they play 4 games already? Have they played already this?
Did they play one in college, maybe?
Yeah, it has to have been. Um, the last time they must. Wait a minute. This 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 can't be right. Because Zach Wilson went to like some
BYU.
podunk school. Yeah, and
Mac Jones went to Alabama, so I don't know. I don't know.
Belichick hasn't lost to the Jets in like 10 years. I don't know. That's weird. I'm gonna retract that stat because um
Because you're calling bullshit.
yeah, I wrote down the stat. Um
Okay.
I my model tells me the Patriots. My model tells me the Patriots handily. I'm gonna because of how wide of a spread and how concerned I am with them losing Elijah Vera Tucker and Brees Hall. I'm gonna stick with the Patriots in my model.
Hey, no problem, man. So you're going with the Pats. I am taking the Jets. And so even with those injuries in mind, uh, I've got the Jets winning by 4. And so I'm just going to take it. I think their offense has been more explosive since they've gotten Zach Wilson back. Not that it's really been explosive, but that a lot of that was Brees Hall. I get that. I think James Robinson will help. They do still have Michael Carter. He was pretty good before Brees Hall came along. And I don't know. I just the Patriots. I just can't count on them to put up points. And so I'm okay going with the Jets here. So I'm taking them.
Next up, we have the Steelers at the Eagles. The key word there is at the Eagles. Do you know when the last time Pittsburgh won in Philadelphia was?
2008.
No.
I don't know.
The Steelers have not won in Philadelphia since October 24th, 1965.
Holy shit.
In that win, Steelers QB Bill Nelson went 6 of 16 for 79 yards.
Oh yeah, big game, career day.
Probably was his career day. There's no way in hell Pittsburgh has a shot in this game. I Philadelphia wins handily.
Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
thought that stat of the last time they won there was interesting.
yeah, I've got Philly winning this one. My model only has it by 7.5, which I would have thought would have been bigger. And there's a part of me that wonders, is this one of these random ass fucking trap games? But I just can't get on board with that. And so I'm sticking with Philly. And in fact, I'll just go ahead and I'll take a look here at the schedule. Let's see who Philly's got next. At Houston. I don't see how this could be a trap game.
Philly could go undefeated.
Dude, my model has them at fucking 16-1 now. Like my rolling model, so like I update it all the time, but it's like yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 16-1. I could see it happening, dude. I could see it happening. But you never know because like some of their games have been really close, and so it just but I like that even in the close ones, they have always found a way to win. whether the offense came up big or the defense came up big or even the special teams came up big. Like they've been getting it done in all the different ways, which is huge. All right, who's
Yeah.
next, man?
Next up is the Titans at the Texans. This is the battle of one of the best versus one of the worst in the NFL. Derrick
Okay.
Henry has the fourth most yards so far this season, and he's tied for third for most touchdowns, while the Texans have allowed the fourth most yards, 988 rushing yards against this season, and 8 rushing touchdowns against, which is also the fourth most. Derrick Henry could have a monster game this week. In his most recent games against the Texans, Derrick Henry has rushed for three most. In the last 3 games against the Texans, Derrick Henry has rushed for 673 yards and 7 touchdowns against the Texans.
Yeah, he owns them.
He owns them. Which I hear Aaron Rodgers sold the Chicago Bears because he no longer wanted to own them, but that's another story. Tennessee wins this game. I think it'll be low scoring and closer than people think, but I think Tennessee still wins the game. Like you're looking
Yeah.
at like the 23-16, 23-20 range.
Yeah, I can see that. And so I'm with you. I've got Tennessee by 5.5. When I look at it, the heat map pretty heavily favors Tennessee. I think the wild card is going to be if Tannehill is out and they start Malik Willis. We just don't know what we're getting at that point. And so while Derrick Henry could run all over him, would the Texans just stack the box and force Malik Willis to do it? I think if that happens, it could maybe change it. But either way, I'm good taking Tennessee right now at 5.5.
All right. Next up, we have the Washington Commodores at the Indianapolis Colts, and I suppose I should figure out their name at some point.
Why do that?
They couldn't figure out their name for so long. Why should I figure it out? So my model has Indianapolis winning this game. This is going to be an override for me, and I'm going to go with Washington. And the reason I'm going with Washington is because Colts quarterbacks in their first start are 1-17 in the Super Bowl era.
Okay.
The only win was some guy that was around before I was born. Not really. Chris Chandler against the Dolphins in 1988. That's the only Colts quarterback to win their first career start.
Gotcha.
In the Super Bowl era. I think that streak continues. Washington rolls from the momentum from beating Green Bay and beats the Colts.
Okay. So I'm gonna take Indy here, James. And man, my model is not like your 0.000006, but it's less than a point. I've got Indy by 0.17. And so, it's like Washington got the spark with Heineke last week. Maybe Indy gets the spark with Ellinger this week. And part of it is Jonathan Taylor getting healthier every week now. Shaq Leonard finally coming back. They're still 3-3-1. I think that they know they got to fight. It's going to be at home for them. And so, like my gut kind of wants to take Washington, but it's like I'm just talking myself out of it, and so I'm going with Indy.
Next up, we have the Christian McCaffrey trade fight on the field with the 49ers at the Rams. Rams are coming off a bye. San Francisco basically owns the Rams in the regular season. The only win that San Francisco has against since McVay's been the only win that the Rams have against San Francisco is the playoff game last year. Yes, Deebo Samuel's out. I think San Francisco keeps rolling with the dominance they've had over the Rams in the last how long McVay been the coach there, and wins the game.
Yeah, so my model picked the Rams, but I'm overriding. You reminded me of it last time, and I stuck with the Rams, I believe, and got burned. So I'm going with San Francisco. I expect them to keep getting better with CMC in the mix. And I don't care that it's in Los Angeles. It's like we've talked historically about two good teams playing each other and they trade wins usually. It's like if one gets one early on, the other one makes the adjustments, they get them later, and then it's almost like they get to the playoffs and it's like that first one comes back around and gets it again. But I don't see the Rams being that good team anymore. I see them being similar to Tampa Bay in ways. We just don't talk about it as much, which is their offensive line is their fucking Achilles heel. And I think if I went and I checked all of the player ratings in my model, I would bet you, James, that the Rams offensive line is probably one of the lowest rated I've got as a group. And I think that because of that, the 49ers, they're going to continue doing what they do, get pressure on Stafford. They're going to stifle that offense. And then I think for them offensively with CMC, they're going to be able to get even more creative with him having another week to learn the playbook. I feel good about San Francisco, man. And my model's got them at 3.5, but I think they could do better than that, to be honest.
All right. Next up, we have the New York Giants at the Seattle Seahawks. And I'm going to say this. After realizing this in the schedule, the league kind of fucked up when they made the schedule because they should have had Seattle play the New York Jets next. And I will explain.
Okay.
Because then you could just have back-to-back-to-back weeks where Geno Smith was playing his old teams. He played the Chargers last week. Then they're playing the Giants this week, and then play the Jets next week. And I checked, and the Jets are on Seattle's schedule.
Okay.
And also, the Jets, I believe, the Jets play Buffalo next week. Big deal. You could have moved that game to the following week, and instead of making us wait till week 17 to see the completion of the Geno Smith revenge tour. And I say the revenge tour because Geno Smith is going to dominate this game again and beat the shit out of the Giants.
Well, maybe that's why they waited till week 17, James, to build that suspense and to let it really be a full coming circle of, oh yeah, you did it, yeah, good for you. But no, I'm with you. I've got Seattle winning. I've got them winning by 3, and it's kind of like if I round it up, it's probably I would say 3.5. It's tough. Both these teams have surprised me this year. Uh, I like the formula that Seattle's using to win more than I like the way that the Giants are doing it. Like the coaching part of it, it's like, week 1 when he went for it on that 4th down or whatever, or he went for 2 or however it worked where they got the win. It's like that's awesome when it works, but it doesn't always work. The formula of running the ball, playing good defense, being safe with the football as a passer, that formula does work over time and it's more consistent, it's more stable. I feel better about it. I'm going Seattle.
Next up, we have Green Bay at Buffalo. So going into the season, I thought this was going to be behind probably the third best game of the year, because I had the
Yeah.
opening night Rams Buffalo game as the best game of the year. Then I had Kansas City Buffalo as the second best. This is probably the third best. A lot of people, this was like their Super Bowl prediction. Um, how things have changed. Buffalo is coming off a bye this week. I had to check the schedule to verify it, but they're coming off a bye this week. Nobody knows who's playing wide receiver for Green Bay. I mean, it might be Joe Smith. Joe Douglas might be out there. Who the fuck knows? Um, there's no way. Green Bay has no shot in this game to even pile on more. The Bills have won the last 7 straight games coming off a bye.
Okay.
They're going to make it 8 here. It's just, I could go through the stats. Buffalo, in the last 10 games, have held their opponents to 21 or fewer points.
Yeah. So what's the line
Green
on
Bay
this one, James?
basically sucks.
It's like 10 or something, 10 or
The
11 or
line is, no, it's 11 and a half.
okay. Yeah, so my model has it at 10 and a half, and I can see it being a lot bigger than that. I really can, dude.
Mhm.
Like you said, Buffalo coming off the bye, and Buffalo's out for blood this year. They don't care who they're fucking playing. They're not playing mercy rules. They're just going to embarrass you. And so, uh, man, I don't know. I could see Buffalo just crushing them hard this week. And so, yeah, I'm with you. There's no way Green Bay wins this. It would have to be Buffalo just being like, yeah, whatever, we're fine.
Yeah, there's no way.
No.
Now we're on Monday night. We have the Bengals at the Browns.
Okay.
Joe Burrow has never beaten the Cleveland Browns.
Times are about to change.
Uh, Interesting thing is, depending if Joe Burrow has a 75% completion percentage and 3 passing touchdowns in this game, I am going to Vegas. I am putting $1,000 on him to win the MVP.
Okay.
3 players have had 3 consecutive games with 75% completion percentage and 3 passing touchdowns. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and Aaron Rodgers. All three of those times were one of their MVP seasons. Joe Burrow's 0-3 against the Browns. Initially, my model had Cincinnati winning the game. Then once it corrected for Jamar Chase being out, it flipped to Cleveland winning the game by about a field goal. I'm going to stick with the model. I have concerns. While there are players that can step up on to take place of Jamar Chase while he's out, like T. Higgins,
Tyler Boyd.
one of the Tyler Boyd. They have like Evans. What's his first name? I can't. It's not Mike Evans. It's
I've got T. Higgins, Trent Taylor, Stanley Morgan, Mike Thomas. We've got
maybe.
Hayden Hurst at tight end. Um, I don't know. I mean, Joe Mixon could be a factor. We've not heard a whole lot of his name this year.
I think it's Mike Thomas,
Okay.
and I
The
was
other Mike
confusing the
Thomas,
Mike.
yes.
Yeah, the other Mike Thomas. No, Chris Evans. Chris Evans. That's who it is.
Okay.
Chris Evans, I think could step up, and he's a second year player. Hasn't played much, but I mean, I think he could step into that role. Not the Chase role. T. Higgins steps up, Evans steps up, and They could be fine. I just have to see it to believe it. I'm going to go with Cleveland in this game.
Okay. Hey, any given Sunday, or in this case, this is the Monday night game. I'm going Cincinnati. I've got them by 2.5 in my model, and I think it's that close because it's in Cleveland. Um, it's an interesting stat that Burrow's not won against Cleveland. I don't trust Cleveland as far as I can throw them. They've aggravated the shit out of me, James, and I just don't think they're going to do it. I have no reason to believe in them. I think for Cincinnati, they looked horrible in weeks 1 and 2, but then they totally turned the page and they look like that Super Bowl team. Even without Jamar Chase, they still have two solid wide receivers. They've gotten a lot of use out of Hayden Hurst. Mixon can be a factor. Their defense has been really good. I'm going Cincy here, man. I have to.
Oh, and I'll give you that. Cincinnati's losses have been flukish style losses. Weeks 1 and 2, they lost to Pittsburgh because the long snapper got hurt and a blocked extra point that went into overtime. The Cowboys, they lost to the Cowboys at the gun. They lost to the Ravens at the gun. So it's come down to like the last play, and they were right in all their games, and I'll give you that. But um, I just think the Browns have Burrow's number.
Okay.
That brings us to the Thursday night game next week. You have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Houston Texans. It's fortunate for Philadelphia that next Thursday the game is in Houston, because if the game was in Philadelphia, I mean just Philadelphia would just go crazy, because on let me verify this. I know Tuesday and Wednesday. It's Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Is that correct? Yes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. The Houston Astros are playing at the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series.
Okay.
So you have those three games, and then on Thursday night you have Houston, the Houston Texans at the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, the Philadelphia would just go nuts.
Yeah.
Because Wednesday night the Phillies are winning the World Series, and
Oh, James, man, and sending us into a recession, because you heard about that, right? All the major recessions in the U.S. history have come at the same time as the Phillies winning the World Series.
not true, but it's not true.
Well, I just read it the other day, and so they probably had to do some homework.
So the Philadelphia Phillies have won the World Series 3 times.
Yep.
They won the World Series in 80.
Okay. Recession.
They won the World Series in 2008 recession. Yes, I will give you that. So they 28 years between World Series and now 14 years before World Series. But
Yeah.
there's another recession in there that's missing. There's
No, yeah, and so it's not all of our recessions. It's just that when they've won it, there has
okay,
been
that is true.
economic
That
turmoil.
that is true. I just think anyway. I'll get back to football.
Sure.
The
Bring it
Philadelphia
back.
Eagles, as we said earlier, Philadelphia Eagles have a chance to go 16-1, 17-0 this season. I do not see them losing. I think their first chance to lose a game is at Dallas in week 16.
Okay.
Yes, week 16. Before then, I do not see any of the teams that Philly is playing even in the game. Houston, so sorry. The Phillies are going to beat your Stros, and then the following day the Eagles are going to just beat the shit out of your Texans like 42-10. and Philly wins that game.
So eloquent the way that you put it, James. No, I mean, I have to take Philly. I'm with you. My model shows Dallas as being the only possible loss as well. And when I look at the schedule, um, it's like we talked about it this week against Pittsburgh is not a trap game. Next week, it's not a trap game. They're playing Washington the week after. Uh, they're going to want to win that game, but they're not going to like look past these teams for Washington, um, unless they just feel that good, where they're just like, yeah, we're going to take our foot off the gas for a couple weeks, which I don't see happening because it's not like they've won that decisively in a lot of these games. And so I see Philly winning. My model has it by 7, which I thought would have been a lot bigger. But that's okay because
Mm-hmm.
it is on the road, like you mentioned. And either way, 7 in normal NFL world is actually a pretty healthy spread. We've just had some wild shit going on this year where we've seen some way bigger spreads than that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, hey, that gets us through the game picks, James. Any final thoughts before we move on to our question of the week?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, listen, so for question of the week, I thought we'd do something a little bit different this week. And we've got a wild start to the year. And it's not even the start to the year. We're like getting close to the halfway mark. And we've got some teams that were expected to be powerhouses sucking ass. And then teams that were expected to suck ass lighten it up. And so I've just listed a handful of teams, and I just want your opinion. Are these teams going to revert to the mean or course correct, however you want to put it, meaning will the teams that were supposed to be powerhouses come around and get back to that? Whereas the teams that were supposed to be shit, is this just like fluke? They've been lucky and now people are going to catch up to them and they're going to go to shit like we expected from here on out. It's almost like James, you might remember what was it like the Rod Marinelli Lions era? Like he started that one year, what was it like 7-1 or something, and then like fucking lost out from there or whatever, it flipped or whatever. It's like, do you see a team having that kind of a drastic flip for the better or the worse? And so
Are
let
you
me
talking
just
about this season? This season, or
this season, yeah. So like from here
okay?
on
So
out,
basically,
and
basically,
so
basically,
well,
you
well
want to
here
know if I
I'm
think
I'm
think
I'm
their
gonna give
record
you
is fake or real.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna give you the team names from this year, and I want you to tell me, are they gonna like revert to the mean or whatever? And so like my example is Green Bay. They're sucking right now. Okay. Green Bay, what, they're sitting at what, 2 wins? In fact, here, let me just check. Are they at 3?
I think it's
Uh,
3.
they're at 3. Yeah, Green Bay's 3-4. You know, most people were expecting them to easily be 10 plus, if not 12 plus. Do you think Green Bay course corrects or are they fucked? I think they're fucked.
I I think they're fucked. I don't see how they could course correct.
Okay. How about Tampa Bay?
Uh, I think they're fucked. I'm not going to say their season's over because they have a chance at winning their division
Yeah.
because their division's terrible, but but they suck.
Okay. I think Tampa Bay will find a way to course correct, but it's that's just me just wildly guessing. What do you think about the Giants? Do you think they can sustain this kind of success, or are they gonna flip and it's gonna even out for them?
I think they're gonna. I think it's gonna even out because they've had a lot of flukish wins.
Yeah.
Like this past week is a perfect example where they were right there for losing the game and they stood them up at basically at the goal line. Um, so I think they're gonna end up. I still see them at like they'll probably win 2 to 3 games the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think it flips for the Giants. And I don't want it to because it's such a great story. But like when I look at their schedule from here on out, it's like, man, yeah, I can see them beating Houston. I can see them beating Detroit. I think, man, it's going to be tough on the road at Dallas. I think, they got Philly, they got Minnesota. They actually got Philly twice. So it's like, man, I think it comes back around for the Giants in the wrong way,
Hmm.
unfortunately. What do you think about the
Hmm.
Jets?
If you would have asked this question going into, if you would ask this 1 week ago today, I would have said that they're legit. The reason why I think it flips is because of the fact of the serious injuries they had to Vera
Brees
Tucker
Hall,
and losing
yeah.
Brees Hall and Vera Tucker for the season. I think that does quite a bit of damage to their prospects going forward, especially seeing as though they have their hardest games ahead of them. They have Buffalo twice. They have to play Minnesota, who we're probably going to get to. They have to play Seattle. Um, they have to play Miami. So their toughest games and their division, most of their division games are coming up.
Okay.
They've they haven't really they haven't really beat. They've won one division game. Just yeah, I still say their hardest games are ahead of them. So they flip now. If they had Vera Tucker and Brees Hall, I think they could be able to sustain, but not without them.
I gotcha. I think that they're like in the middle for me, and it's hard for me to pick. It's almost like flipping a coin. Like I feel like I've talked about like their trenches are getting so much better that I could feel like maybe they do okay. But if I look at their last 10 games, I think they're only going to win four of them. And so it's like if I got to pick
Mhm.
yes or no, it's no. I think that they're coming back down. How about the Saints? Do you think they can course correct?
No,
I think they're fucked.
no.
I'm with you. I think they're
The
fucked.
old the old
It's
saying, and it's not if you have two starting quarterbacks. If you have two quarterbacks, period, you
yeah,
have no
yeah,
quarterbacks.
you're messed up. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I just and they have a really fucking tough schedule for a little while here. They're playing Baltimore, they're playing the Rams, they're playing the 49ers. I mean, it's like I think they're toast. Stick a fork in them. And especially because I think once they get past that hump where they're just like totally beaten down, I think they throw in the towel. They got nothing left to fight for.
Mhm.
Minnesota sitting at 5-1. Do you think it turns on them and they go the other way?
No.
Okay.
And this is more a factor of their remaining schedule. Like, yeah, they have Baltimore and Dallas, and the Jets and the Giants, but I think the Jets and Giants are gonna regress. Outside of that, uh, they have Green Bay, um, Washington, New England, Detroit, Indianapolis. They have all teams that are already fucked.
Yeah.
Chicago. It's they have a relatively easy schedule coming forward, so I think that they're going to sustain. Maybe
Nice.
not at the 5-1 clip, but
Yeah, I like Minnesota's schedule. I think they'll be okay. I think they're on the road. You never know, but it's like the Jets I had just under my halfway point. The Vikings I've got just over, and so it's like I'll give them the green light. I give them the benefit of the doubt. The last one I had, James, and I don't know. I mean, I probably in my head think I know where you're at, but I'm just going to ask. But it's Denver. Do you think that they find a way, or do you think that they're fucked?
I think that Denver hitched the wagon to the wrong coach and the wrong quarterback, and they're fucked. And they're
Okay,
fucked for a long time, not just this year. They're fucked going forward because they owe like they really can't get rid of Russ. Like
it's too
that's how
big of a
much
swing and a miss.
they would owe him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a huge swing and miss, and that's going to set them back for a decade.
yeah. It's almost like when the Lions drafted Joey Harrington. It's like, great, now you got
Hmm.
this guy getting top dollar that sucks, and you're like tied to him at the hip for like fucking 6 years. It's just not good.
Mhm.
I don't, my model, James, it's wild. I'm sure they'll squeeze some stuff out here and there. My model does not have Denver getting another win. It's, I have no faith in them, dude. I have no faith in them. And so it's pretty wild. But those are the teams that I just grouped in is either being strongly overperforming or strongly underperforming. I didn't throw any else in there, but you know, if there's a team that you think I'm missing, we can add them in.
Um, Actually, glancing at it, I think that's you hit the list pretty well. Like I'm not seeing much else either way. Like no, I
Okay,
think that's about it.
easy peasy. Well, closing thoughts, questions, concerns, things like that.
When the fuck are the Lions going to win their second game? You
Let
said
me tell you.
concerns. Uh,
Let me tell you. I'm on the wrong team. Hang on. All right, so we're going into week 8. I think that they will win at Chicago. And if they don't win
I
at
think they're going to win
Chicago,
their
I think
next.
they'll win at home against Chicago.
I think they're going to win their next three, but we'll see.
Man, it'd be if they won their next 3, James, things would start getting weird because we'd be like, "What is going on? Do you get on the bandwagon now?" Like, oh, it'd
Hmm.
be such a mind fuck. Okay, so for anybody who's watching, we hope you like the show. You know, hit that like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps us out. Uh, Play Name That Stadium. Have some fun with us. Let's interact. We do this shit every week. And yeah, James, I can see you're getting a little tired there, man. So we'll hang it up, man. I hope everybody liked it. And James, man, like always, it was fun. I'll catch you later, buddy.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.